We're all looking at the same thing. Thank you for joining us for another perspective from the SAG Nasty If Anybody Asks Me podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment. For more videos, please subscribe to the channel.
So from our tenor section of the choir is a very good piano player. You might check with him. Honey, I asked that boy and he looked at me like he was in disgust. I thought I was the odd man out. Like I
Stu said it was bad for
I was
him
the
too.
only
And that's
one
Stu.
that
Stu said it was
had
terrible. So
really.
yeah, he said I think he said it was basically the same thing that I experienced.
Yeah,
Like, it was good.
like
good
what you did.
Yeah.
What?
It's strange, right?
Your dream vision,
Yeah.
do you have this illustrated anywhere?
No, but I've always tried to. I wrote it down somewhere, but I've had it's been reoccurring because, like, when I teach other kids, I like see. I call it the mantle, even though it's not a mantle, but I just call it a mantle. It's more like a bookshelf. It's similar to what my mom had in the house with teapots. She's a teapot collector, and so when you like ran in the house too hard, because remember we had those strange floors with the like basement.
Yeah.
So you ran, and it was like jingling, and my mom, and you'd be
Stop
scared to
running
break
through my
something.
house.
Yeah, right. That's how it was that floor was very thin, you know.
Yep.
So those teapots would be jingling. So it's probably related somehow to that memory. But like I have this vision a lot of times when I meet a promising young person or someone who's been hurt, obviously, by
So it's like a
society or parents.
reminder to pour into them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I need to make sure that even if that last thing is left on the mantle, I need to take care of it. Or if the mantle's full, I need to continue to guide them towards that way. And so it's unfair in a way that I didn't have that same kind of love and care, but I make sure to try to pass it on
Yes.
to the best of my ability.
Same.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I'd become a guidance counselor or because of that. Or that pediatrician, you know. Yeah, there's a lot.
I wish they could see your face. So you said you transferred. So you didn't start at Central. You ended up at Central. Where did you go before? Delta or?
Delta.
Yeah, okay.
Delta College.
Delta low key is a decent college, at least back then.
Absolutely. And I loved it because they had,
and
I'm sure they have something. Yeah. I'm sure they have a program similar now. I know the name is not the same, but they had the macro agreement.
Okay.
So you started at Delta and you took all of the necessary courses that would transfer as your basic classes over to a different university.
Nice.
So in my case, Central.
Yeah.
And so I had basically, by the time I left here and got to Central, I was in my major. I started my major.
So it was like a cheaper way just to go to school.
Definitely a cheaper way to start. Yeah. Because I didn't have a ton of guidance, I stayed in school way too long as an undergrad, but
wow,
I'm here.
So at Delta, you did 2 years?
I ended up being there 3 full years.
3 full years.
And the third year, I was only like part-time. I wasn't even full-time.
I saw you at Central just for a second, and I didn't understand why I hadn't seen you before. But that had happened with other people. It's like, oh, I guess they were here the whole time, but I never considered the transfer aspect. Because Mason transferred. Wait, he didn't transfer. He went to Delta, but then he started going to, what was that called? Mid-Michigan Community College. That's what it was. He started going there instead. That was in Mount Pleasant.
Up in Mount Pleasant?
Yeah. He transferred to that because he was living with me. But why did you stay so long? What is that experience? Yeah. But I agree with you about the guidance. I understand it, but yours is probably different.
Yeah. So honestly, Daryl, I'm going to have to reflect because I can't remember why I didn't leave in 2000. That would have been 2002. Fall of 2002 is when I should have been coming or arriving at Central. I think I do know. I think that some of those basic courses, and I think actually, unfortunately, one of them might have been an elective. I think it was
You
an
took the
art
wrong
class.
one.
I failed that joker.
Oh no.
So I had to retake a course or two or so.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I only ended up being part-time. So that makes total sense. That's what it was. I had to retake a class. And in retrospect, why didn't I just transfer to Central and take it there? Because it was cheaper, of course.
I think it's probably the right choice.
That's
yeah,
probably exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. That's why I was at Delta so long. And then at Central, I didn't do so hot in one of my classes in the music department, as it was there were a couple actually in a couple of different semesters, but I got it together after that first year.
It was
music
difficult?
theory, heck yeah, it was something I never experienced before. I mean, like many kids, but specific to my major, I'd never been involved in a music theory class, like an entire course.
Mm-hmm.
Sight singing and ear training was never my strong suit.
Sight singing
at all.
What's
singing.
So like singing off the notes?
So picking up a sheet of
like the notes of music, right?
Sheet music and singing it without learning it first.
And
like
then
being
ear music?
Sight singing and ear training.
Training.
The ear training helps with your sight singing. If my ear is trained to hear different intervals correctly, then I'll know how to sing what I see on the paper. And we did get exposure to that in high school in choir.
Yeah.
But it was something I never knew fully. You know how like you learn something, you're exposed to something and you're like, okay, everybody else seems to get this. Like you're kind of doing it, but you don't know what it takes to make it happen on your own. People are like, figure it out.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what to do. Figure it out. I didn't know how to figure it out.
Yeah, right.
And so evidently I did something right because I passed. Thank the Lord, grace, thanks be unto God.
Amen.
That I had a decent voice.
Yeah.
I always had a naturally good singing voice.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was appreciated in that setting. I could sing the jazzy stuff. I wasn't really a scatter, but I had to do one of the scat solos in high school, but I also could sing classical voice as well. And so as long as I was able to do that well, and I could move a little bit with our choreography, the sight singing and ear training was not very, she worked with me a little bit here and there on it, every blue moon, but that was part of our testing for choir. I don't know if I ever really did that great in it or not. So by the time I got to Central and you're taking a full course of sight singing and ear training, I grew to love it because of the challenge, but I couldn't love it until I understood how to figure it out.
See, that's the thing, going back to Chigger Tim, though, is that she was strict, but she was like a perfectionist in a way sometimes. And
so surprising that I didn't get what I needed.
That's the thing with Heritage, that there's these moments of like excellence, like good teachers and like good moments, good programs. But sometimes if you don't know about what you're basically involved in, you don't really realize, like, maybe she was able to see like, oh, you need to work, like you have a beautiful voice, exactly what you said, the same evaluation, but to take a step further and like lead you through that, maybe there's certain barriers why she couldn't do that. Maybe just time, who knows? That's a huge choir.
Point me in the right direction. Who do I need to see?
Maybe it's like she felt you didn't like her at that point too. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe, but maybe she saw that, maybe, because she definitely is accomplished. Think about how many times they won.
Exactly.
Yeah, they won a lot of choir competitions. Yeah, right. She's a great
But
teacher.
if you got the masses and you got these over here that know what they're doing, and they're the bulk of your students, why are you gonna waste time on me? My piano teacher, who was the choir teacher at Saginaw High for a very long time, she was the one that told me I need to be involved in solo and ensemble. I don't think I ever was encouraged or invited to compete in solo and ensemble.
There you go.
During my high school years. Right. When I said I wanted to compete, well, you're going to need an accompanist. You're going to need somebody to play the piano for you. Well, where do I get one of those?
Yeah.
Well, I won't say any names. So-and-so from our tenor section of the choir is a very good piano player. You might check with him. Honey, I asked that boy and he looked at me like he was in disgust.
Oh, no.
I said, oh, okay. I guess that ain't for me. I'll carry on.
Dang. But it doesn't take a music genius to understand that you're a soloist, that you would be the one to compete in that way, because that's more of your strength. As obviously as you're older, you know that. That's sad though. Yeah. And again, it goes back to the I don't know and the I can't. And it goes back to the mantle, because when you say you asked that boy and he looked at you in disgust, for me, that's one of the things falling off the mantle and shattering. It's like, oh, that's the end of that. And then you get older, and it's like, oh, I can do that. And it's like, you miss so many hours of experience and stuff like that. And to me, like, I kind of tried to explain it to Rhea a little bit, but to me, it's like an atrocity, you know.
It is.
As an educator, I understand you get tired, but for me,
but that's what you're there for.
As an educator, for me, I get excited when I meet someone who has talent and potential. I don't get exhausted, you know, but maybe it's different when you have that many students. I've never been at a high school, but I don't know, like for me in basketball, for example, my coach never got excited about how good I was. And it always was strange to me, you know, because my brother, he didn't play basketball, but for some reason I knew about the basketball back then. And they had this guy, his name was, I think, Eric Kessler. And if you look in the record books, he was scoring like 40 points a game, which means he was taking a lot of shots, like lots and lots of shots. My coach wouldn't let me shoot more than 10 times. So if I make 10 for 10, that's 20 points. How is this guy scoring 40? And I guarantee I'm better.
You don't even get the opportunity to try to beat the record.
Right. So I can only, at maximum, I can only accomplish half of what he's done because I'm not allowed to shoot beyond that. And I guarantee I'm a better basketball player than this guy. I just guarantee. And he was a legend. I'm a legend too. But I always wonder about that. And yeah, maybe I don't think it's blatant racism, but I do think it's sometimes a strange indifference because of the cultural disconnect.
Indifference. That's just as dangerous.
I think it's the worst, to be honest. For me, indifference is, especially these days, it's a very dangerous thing, and you just see it. It's like, I just don't care. Like, that's a young life that has the whole, like, someone helped you get to this point to be a guidance counselor, teacher, educator. I'll help myself. And then you go back and it's like, no, you didn't.
Right.
Because it's impossible. Because like you said, you don't know. You can only
Somebody played a part.
Exactly. You can only do as someone has guided you and told you and stuff like that. So